Hey, Hunnies and Hunks. Got another episode of Hardcourt Hunnies, and we're doing the full court press of the NBA today. And of course, we have with us today the master of the North, Jade Auxiliary Thing Johnson.
I like
How is
that.
your basketball viewing this week been?
It's been a lot of fun. There's been a lot of good games. The Raptors won more games than I thought they would. I always like that kind of week, even though it's bad for our in-show competition. I'll be wrong about a win that I thought was going to be a loss 100 times out of 100.
Well, that's good. And then when we're looking at my screen, on the left to you, we got ourselves Shay at Shay Watches NBA Vassar. Have you been able to keep up with basketball in the league this week?
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched any games, but I have looked up like after the fact. I think it's just
checking the highlight box score stuff.
Yeah, like I keep up with my box scores. My fantasy team is not doing so well, but I'm not last in my fantasy league. I'm ninth out of 10, so I'm not failing. But yeah, so I'm doing the best I can, but life.
I'm terrible with fantasy sports, so when even you say like, "Oh, I'm at least getting by," I'm like, "How?"
I'm doing all right too. I'm 2-1 in my paid league, and I picked 12, so I'm really excited about that. I was worried about picking 12 of 12 teams. It was not easy, and I'm like, I tied and won my other 2 leagues this week too. So yeah, I hear that. I'm hanging in there too.
That's it. You just gotta hang on. Like.
Yeah, it's early in the season. Things are going to change. If you're competitive the first few weeks, you've got lots of time to tweak and make changes and figure out what's what.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've done the fantasy thing, and then like I would do well, and then one of my better players would get injured, and then I just stopped paying attention. A handful of years ago, it was Walker when he was still like in Charlotte, so like still like the Walkman.
Yeah.
And got a knee injury and screwed me over. I just stopped paying attention after that because I was like, he was one of my top point getter, like fantasy point getters, and I was like, well, I'm screwed there. He's out for 4 months, and by that point,
that's the challenge of fantasy sports, right?
And then of course. This is Charlotte Hornets, so they're also not getting to the playoffs. So I'm not even getting anything from that too. So, yeah. But before we go in, though, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube at Hardcourt Hunnies, and then on Instagram in one word at Hardcourt Hunnies, and then on Twitter, HC Hunnies. And also look for everywhere right now where you can find your favorite podcasts. Do we have a new person with the show? A new creature?
He came in for a second, but then he got bored. So he's just
the life of a cat, man.
Exactly. Oh, Parker.
What?
Parker, I was just thinking about you.
What?
Yeah, where'd that go?
Oh. For those new to the Hardcourt Hunnies, Parker was one of our main mans when we first started up.
Old friend of the show.
Met him through another site years ago. What was it, like 4 years ago?
I hope you stick around for us to talk about Harden, Parker.
Oh, yeah. Right? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We will. That's actually the first thing we're talking about is Harden. And then that will also then lead to Houston. So I'm just gonna say what we're getting into this week. So Clippers, they have dove very, very headfirst into the deep end, bad. But then you got Houston though. This is out of nowhere. They're playing like a well-oiled machine. And then Denver, what are their expectations now with Murray gone? Like, yes, you are still a contending team, but like, where are they going to be sitting once he comes back? And then when we're going to the East Coast, Sixers, ever since the trade, it's like nothing has happened. They're just better than they were before. Bucks, they're going the complete opposite side. Once again, what are they doing? And then just today, Bleacher Report reported Zach Lavine and the Bulls, they are both open for trades. So Chicago in general, where are we going? So let's get into it. So Clippers right now are 0-5 in the new Harden era. is it still early enough in the season to fix things, Jade, or is there just way too much stuff to fix that it's just not going to be good enough in time?
I mean, it's early in the season still. Like, we're only starting week 4 right now. So like, yes, I think objectively it's early enough. Do I think the Clippers are going to do it? That's a different question. Not so much.
That Shay, do you see them figuring out stuff? Because I mean, you are a person that you had Harden on your squad, so you know the drama that can come with a Harden
can come. I think you mean always comes.
Always comes, like since the beginning of him being in the league. I think my fear is just that, like, the experiment already wasn't fully working with you know, Paul George, Kawhi, and Russell. Like, they still were figuring out how the three of them. So to add a fourth, especially a fourth that's as chaotic as Harden, just felt really random. And I don't know how I feel about it.
Well, and the Clippers have been trying to do this. Let's add a star for how many seasons in a row now have they been doing this?
Right.
And not getting anywhere. Like, just not. They need to get into their new arena outside of LA so that they can stop feeling like they have to compete with the Lakers all the time.
They're not the little brother.
Yes,
they need
their own space where they can be like, fine, we have our fan base. We're not competing with the Lakers for a fan base anymore. We can rebuild, and it's okay that we are rebuilding. Like, we can just embrace this process.
Exactly.
So obviously, yes, a lot of it's on, excuse me, James Harden, but you have superstars that should already know how to blend in together. So Shay, how much does this also go, like, say, on Kawhi, Paul George, or Russell Westbrook to make sure James Harden can fit through?
I mean, I think it's any part of being on a team. You have to try to help people adapt in. I think what the issue with Harden is he comes into a team and thinks that they're going to adjust around him. But in this situation, yeah, like, he's not right. Like, he's like, I am the system. No. Especially when you're going into this team that has like 3 other dudes that are better than you.
2 of whom have been there for a hot minute now.
No, yeah, right. Exactly. And they know that they have the criticism because of the injuries and stuff like that. So they want to get the credit. They gotta figure stuff out with it.
Yep.
But speaking of just Harden and different teams that he's been a part of, let's look into a positive side. And we already had Parker put it up there with about with Dylan Brooks and Freddie Van Vliet. Also, what's his Sengun? I always forget his last name.
Sengun. Yep, you got it.
Yes, he's phenomenal right now. He's one of my favorite role players in the league, and he's becoming even better.
I reached for him in 2 of my leagues. I got him in 1, and he is paying off big for me.
Since Jade, since he's already on your team, where did this all come from Houston?
So here's the thing, and I say this every time a new roster clicks immediately. I don't trust it yet. We saw this happen with Utah 2 seasons ago, where they came out with this really hot start. They had all these wins, and they still ended up the season like middle to end of the pack, if I remember correctly. So, like, for me in basketball, learning to be a team is a process that takes time, unless you get really lucky and all the pieces just fit together magically. Now, I think it's too early to say with Houston which one of those things is happening right now, whether it's just that kind of fluky lightning in a bottle, is it going to hold out thing. I think we need 20 more games before I'm willing to say, okay, Houston's got something. And they're going to go this is not a sustainable pace for any team for an entire season. So there is going to be a losing streak. The question is, how do they come back from that? I'm not willing to pass judgment until that happens.
I personally think that some of these other teams that are having issues at the beginning of the season, it's in my personal opinion, it's better to get this out at the beginning of the season.
Agreed. Yes.
Then what Houston's going through right now is kind of the opposite, where they're like, okay, well, we know that that's not like a longevity thing. We know that they're not going to be able to withstand this. In the same way where it's like we look at the Bucks and maybe some of, they're not meshing in the same way as well. But like we expect that. I don't expect the Bucks. I mean, I expect the Bucks to be good and fun to watch, but I don't expect them to be at their best potential until after the All-Star break because they're figuring out their new stuff. So it is kind of funny that there is always going to be a team when all these other like great contenders that we are probably going to see in the playoffs, there's always going to be a team that's like, oh, we're going to do our good stuff now. Because why not? I just don't think it's going to last, though.
So then we're just all agreeing there are general census of they're kind of like how San Antonio and Utah were last year, where everyone's like, are they actually going to be something? They're doing pretty well. And then hit a wall real quick with it.
And I'm like, I'm not saying I think for sure they're going to hit a wall. I'm saying at this point in the season, I'm not willing to say they're not going to.
I think they'll definitely start to cool down because like you were trying to mess with me in our group chat with Dylan Brooks shooting 60, 60, 90. And then I'm like, well, this has got to end. Like physically, yes. If he had this kind of season, then it would be the greatest shooting season of all time. That's not going to happen.
But I mean, he is rolling that over from playing international basketball in the summer for Canada.
Oh no, yes,
it's a little bit different sometimes when it starts in the off season in real competition and then comes. That's what happened with Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen was unlocked playing for Finland the previous off season, not this past one, the one before, and that has continued. He's another one of the guys I've got on my fantasy rosters. He's one of my top 3 performances in my matchup, not just on my team, but in the matchup every week so far. He's been one of my top performers. So like, it's hard to say which way it's going to go. Dylan Brooks has done himself a real disservice of developing the persona he has, because I think it distracts from how good he is at basketball. He's really good at basketball, but like he's just makes me want to do this like all the time. So it's harder to be objective with him. I find.
Since they're such a young team, do you think that his antics are going to sometimes eventually kind of get to the team a little bit because they don't know how to handle it? Or is that something where like, well, you got Uncle Jeff on their team to handle that? Or
right. Freddie, and Freddie is, we call them Steady Freddie for a reason. I think the two of them will probably balance each other right out.
Because that's a team, because you got Jalen Green too, where for me, he's kind of a wild card, but if he gets really good or like good, he will be really good. So I think he just needs a better locker room around him. But speaking of great locker rooms, Denver, that's a fantastic locker room. I will give a salute to Mike Malone getting that big old bag contract.
Heck yeah.
Well deserved.
Well deserved for him, but good news, bad news, because they got some bad news of Murray's out for a couple weeks with an injury.
I know. Sorry.
He's on one of my fantasy teams.
Yeah, like he's like the main like point guard I start. So I'm like, what are you doing?
This is my Kemba situation. This is exactly like my Kemba situation. Like,
I've got McCollum out on one of my other teams too. Ugh.
Hey, I could say that too about my Timberwolves, but I'm gonna hold back on that in 5 minutes. But so who has to step up now? Like Jokic can only average a triple-double 500 times a year. But so do we have Aaron Gordon step up? Does Michael Porter Jr. have to finally find that consistent 3-point shot? Shay, where do you think this Denver team has to figure out?
I mean, between those two, I think Aaron Gordon is who I would put my money on before Michael Porter Jr., just because his consistency has been, that's been such an obvious issue since he's really been a rookie. But we also have seen Jokic carry this team without Jamal Murray. And so I'm not really too
worried. For a whole season. For a whole season.
So, like, he's absolutely that year. It's fine.
See, and I go the other way with it. I think because Aaron Gordon is already so productive and he's closer to his ceiling, Michael Porter Jr. is the one that needs to fill in some of that gap because he's never played consistently to his potential. I think it's harder to ask somebody who's already giving a lot of production to find more when you've got somebody with the talent who isn't quite consistently showing up for whatever reason that is.
We already know what we're getting with Aaron Gordon. With Michael Porter Jr., he's a couple of years younger, and he had so much hype going around him from high school.
Yeah.
That, like, now he's to the point where it's like, okay, this is to the point where what kind of player are you going to be? Because within the next season or two,
I was just going to say that.
It's going to define where you are going to be. Are you going to be a great starter, a starter? Are you just going to be a role player? Because within the next few years, that's where it's going to decide. And this is the place where you solidify it. But so we're flipping on both sides with it. Or is there another role player? Like, they lost Bruce Brown. That was key.
He was big for them.
That was also key. Yeah. Even though he's been playing in the years, like, been in the league since like 1978, like before Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, like how is Mike Malone the only coach that could figure their situation out?
I mean, let's be real also too. The Nuggets are tied for the best record in the West right now, even with Jamal Murray out. They're 8-2. So I think it's premature to worry about the Nuggets. The Nuggets are in a great place as defending champions. They know how to win games without Jamal Murray, and he's only going to be gone for weeks instead of an entire season. So
exactly,
I'm not really worried about the Nuggets at this point.
Helps that it's not even December too. So by the time he comes back, it's going to be All-Star weekend. My big thing is, though, he was going to be an All-Star player this year.
Yeah.
Even if he wasn't going to be, like, he wouldn't have maybe been voted in by the fans. Probably not, because that's just literally the popularity contest.
Yeah.
But the coming off the bench, coaches would have put him in. Honestly, if I were a player, like an all-star player, I'd rather be like on the bench, because that means I was picked by my peers.
Your peers.
Coaches.
Exactly.
Yeah. They acknowledge I'm not the most popular guy on the court. Or, like, I get that. Like, that, like, the first bit, that's popularity contest. But then the rest of the 12 or whatever, are you good? That's all I gotta know. Speaking of our team's good and people are good, Jade, do we have some good news this week with our home teams?
Oh, we definitely got news. We have interesting news. We are going to start this week with, I just got to change my layout here. Okay, and sort through my slides. So we're going to start with Taylor this week. So, Taylor, this week you predicted win against the Pelicans, win against the Spurs, loss to the Warriors. And you got them all.
I still think everything is a fluke for us. So used to being bad that we are getting so much hype on, like, national media now.
Yeah.
I don't trust it.
Oh, sorry, my bad. You got the win against the Pelicans and the Spurs, right? But you beat the Warriors this week, and you said that you would lose to the Warriors, which is a fair prediction. Like,
it's a fair prediction that weirdly
we were up by like 12 with like 2 minutes left, or something like that. And then I was like, that's too much time with the Warriors.
Yes.
Because then it was bam, 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 like quick, like 8 points. Like,
and while we're on the Warriors, can we talk about Steph Curry?
Yeah.
Start to the season. Like, I was
everything for them.
That team is... I was talking to my roommate Nathan this week, and I was like, at what point are we going to include Steph Curry in the greatest of all time conversation? Like, does he need to win one more ring? You know, because, like, I get Jordan and LeBron, I get it. I think Curry deserves mention, and he's never mentioned.
I just find him so insufferable. And then when he made a comment this past, yes, I've always found Steph Curry, like, I love his playing, but there's something about like the fact he chews on his mouth guard so much. Big no for me. It grosses me out so bad that like I think about it and I want to cry. And then this week he also was like saying how like, oh, the in tournament is so easy to understand. Like it's, and I was like, I still don't understand it, Steph Curry, and I have a master's degree. So like,
sorry guys, I have no degree. I technically have a 10th grade education and I understand it. So,
so like, let's talk about that.
Hey, you have a master's, but does it have anything to do with analytics?
No.
The tournament has nothing to do with analytics.
Well, okay, numbers and everything wise.
Has nothing to do with that.
But okay, but Shay, what's your master's in?
Indigenous people's law.
I don't think your degree has much to do on how the system is set up for a brand new thing to the NBA.
Well, still, I took offense to what Steph was saying. Okay, like
I
don't get it. I don't get it.
You agree with Bones Highland then, because he's just like, yeah, I don't get it either.
Mouth guards, like, it is like he chomps on it and then he like throws his free throws. And I'm like, how are you doing that at the same time? It's so
because he's that good is the answer.
He's built differently.
He's built different.
He's built differently.
All right,
and I say that as someone who had to wear a mouth guard when I played rugby. So like I know that it's awkward. What do you do with it when you're not just like, anyway.
All right, we're going to go on to my Raptors for the week. I also went 2-1 in my predictions. Again, we beat the Mavericks. Did not see that coming. It was fantastic. Lost to the Celtics. Definitely saw that coming and beat the Wizards last night, but had to mount a ridiculous 23-point comeback. We were down 23 points in the third quarter.
Oh my god!
To come back and win that game. Yeah. Oh, the other podcast I used to be on, Raptors Queens, I had to call them out because they compared Kyle Kuzma to Kobe on their timeline this week. And I was like, ladies, you know I love you, but you cannot put Kyle Kuzma.
What was the comparison?
They said that Kyle Kuzma is playing like the second coming of Kobe, and I'm just like,
what?
Is that a troll? That's got to be a troll comment.
I don't know. They didn't reply to me. I was hoping I was going to get some action on that.
That has to be a troll comment because goddamn.
So that takes my record of predictions to the season to 4-9. So I'm 444. Taylor's 333. Here's the big story, Shay.
I know.
Do you know what your record is?
I don't remember.
You're perfect. 3 weeks in a row.
Still?
Yes.
Oh.
So I'm pretty sure I will be betting on the Nets to win or lose this week based on Shay's predictions. Because like 3 weeks in a row. What's going on, crazy. Shay?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't have a master's degree that helps me with my analytics. So,
but apparently, you got them down.
One thing that I will say though is, I'm glad I'm wrong with these numbers because that means my team is doing well right now. Because I am not giving my team the benefit of the doubt right now. I'm like, no, we're still gonna blow it in the third, so we're gonna lose. So yeah, I'm just done with it. No. Even if they come, like we'll be up 22, but even if they get to 16, I get worried and I'll change the channel.
Well, I mean, and 16 it's different. Like when I was growing up watching basketball, if you were up 16 points at the beginning of the fourth, there's a good chance that game was over.
Right.
And that's not how it works anymore.
16 points in with 3 minutes left in the game. I still don't like it. No matter how well we've been doing that game, I can't. I've been a fan too long.
All right, so let's review where we are in our win total predictions for the season. So Taylor, you predicted 46 wins for the Timberwolves. You would now have 7, so you're 15% of the way to your win total for the season. Pretty good after only 3 weeks, I would say, to be that far along. I think that bodes well for the Timberwolves to get 46 wins this season.
People are saying we're going to get 50 wins, and I'm like, okay. Let's back it up.
Let's slow down.
This season.
But again, like you guys have Cat and Gobert starting to put it together. and Ant is an emerging superstar. So like some of the pieces are there for you guys to really do some damage this season.
Gobert is first for defensive player of the year right now. Mike Conley has had 1 turnover this year, and it was in the first 43 seconds in the first game. And ever since then,
he hasn't had another one.
I think he's had like 190 some assists to 0 turnovers.
That's like that's Chris Paul numbers.
It's wow. Rudy Gobert can finally catch the ball. Like that was a big thing. He's leading the league in reboundings or something like that. He's getting 2 blocks a game. I saw a stat online where it was like called like the drop back or kickback. I can't remember, but it was essentially how many times when a player drives in and they see Rudy and they drive out or kick back out. What is the percentage of times that happens when he swings over?
More than half, I would guess.
I don't gotta go into that. That would take me so long. I go down another road. So
all right, so we'll go on to my Raptors. Yeah. I predicted 43 wins. I got 5, 11.6%. And then Shay predicted 42 wins. She also has 5. So we're at 11.9. Shay and I are neck and neck. So let's go on to what is coming up this week for us. So you are at the Warriors tonight for an in-season tournament game. Taylor, you got at the Sun. You're on the road most of the week this week. At the Suns, at Pelicans, and then home versus the Knicks to end your week. What are your predictions?
I gotta be usual me. I think tonight Warriors are out for blood tonight. They're out for blood tonight.
The Warriors,
so we will lose tonight. I don't know when Booker is back for the Suns.
I don't think he'll. I would guess he's not going to be back for you.
No, I don't think he'll be back.
But I mean, the Suns still have quite a bit of firepower.
Yeah. But like Kevin Durant, we have our answer with Jaden McDaniels. So I'm going to give us a win on that one.
Okay.
I'm going to give us 1 loss and 3 wins. I'm going to the Knicks and Pelicans.
All right.
I like it.
Any team that Tom Thibodeau is on, it's on the calendar for Timberwolves fans. It is on the calendar because it is the biggest booze, even more than Jimmy. Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, Jimmy didn't deserve the bad rap. Anyways, I'm gonna go moving on to my Raptors. After being on the road all of last week, we are home all of this week. Bucks, Celtics, and Pistons. I don't think the Bucks are going to have their crap together yet, and the Raptors are starting to look like a real basketball team. Like Dame had like almost no points last night. We're going to talk about this later. I'm not going to get into the Bucks.
No, yeah, we got this. I was like, this is going to alley you perfectly into what I will be mentioning later.
I'm going to say we're going to beat the Bucks. I'm going to say we're going to lose to the Celtics again because, man, the Celtics are playing really good basketball.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to beat the Pistons because we own the Pistons.
I
Pistons Arena is Scotiabank West. Huh?
No direction for that team.
The Pistons, no. But I mean that's. I think that's just where they are. They have the talent and they have the coach that is good with the talent. So we'll see how that goes. And finally, for Shay, you have an in-season tournament versus the Magic this week, and then you're at Miami, and then home to the Sixers.
This is a hard one, so I might lose my streak. I mean, not for the Magic. We're gonna beat the Magic. Also at home, I just feel like, I don't doubt that. I think the hard part is the Heat and the Sixers, because it really could go either way. Because none of us have our stuff together. So
for what it's worth, I don't think you guys are going to beat the Sixers right now.
I know. I was like, I'm going to go ahead and say we'll beat the Heat and lose to the Sixers, which scary because we're in Miami, but we'll see.
I think it's fair. We will see how that goes next week. So that is all of our predictions for this week. We will check back again, update all of our stats and whatnot for next week. And now we'll swing it back over to Taylor.
Yeah. Miami's been a hot and cold team.
Exactly.
You don't know what you get out of them. But well, now since we were just talking about those East teams, and we were just talking about the Sixers, are you guys surprised on how smooth the transition they had since the trade? Oh, also shout out Kelly Oubre. Hope everything gets better
well soon.
When
I told my roommate about this, he's like, "How do you miss that tall, light-skinned guy walking down the street? Like, how do you miss him?" So he has a broken, fractured rib and some bumps and bruises. Luckily that he was not injured worse than he was. He will be back in a few weeks. I think.
Okay, I thought he was going to be like towards the end of the season.
You know, I think I read he'll be evaluated in a week to see how his rib's doing.
Right.
And then hopefully it's not too much longer after that. But the Sixers, my friend Kathy summed it up very well in one tweet after Maxey's 50-point performance the other night. I won my matchup by 5 points that week, and it was because Maxey had that game. And she quote tweeted Stat Muse's rundown of Maxey's game and just said, "No Harden necessary." I think that pretty much says it all.
Shay, how much happier do you think Joel Embiid is not having to worry about Harden? Like now he officially has an actual Robin. He has his Robin.
I think
go.
Sorry.
No, I was gonna say
I kept cutting you off. No, I think that like in general, I would imagine the whole team is happier. Because the thing with Harden is he was not only bringing drama to the court and like with the players, he was starting to make it really difficult with the front office as well. And so that's unnecessary. In the sense where like if I was a player and he started unnecessary beef, bringing all that out, talking to the press about that kind of stuff, it would be really frustrating. So I think the fact that we get to see the Sixers in this way and to see Joel Embiid kind of be the leader, I think if anything, we've all been critical of Embiid in the past. I think he's really grown up a lot. And so I think this is a really good opportunity for him to grow even more as a leader. So I'm excited.
Yeah. I don't super think of them as Batman and Robin either. I think of them more as like Iron Man and Captain America.
I could see that.
Like, because Maxey is that good. Maxey is that good. He is so fast. Oh my goodness. Like, if he gets a step on you, it's over. He's gone. Like, what are you going to do? You can't keep up with the guy. He shoots. He passes well. Like, the Sixers are, I think, in a really good place right now. For the first time in a hot minute, they're in a good place.
I never knew how good of a shooter Maxey was. Yeah. I thought, I knew he was a speed demon. I knew he could get to the hoop. I knew he could finish and everything like that. I didn't think he had the jump shot that he has.
Yep.
Right.
So, because I said, I get him mixed up. I get him quickly and Terrence Mann for some reason. I get them all mixed up. I have no idea. I think it's because they all kind of play similar and they're all like young players the same age. Teams are like, no, you're not touching this player. Like, we have a lot of tradable pieces.
Not this one.
Touching this player. Yep. And that's what those three players are. But so the Bucks have not been having a smooth transition with their big player trade. It was to a point. Giannis has 54 points the other night. 54. And they still lose. So for the Bucks, when does the frustration really start in? Should it be starting right now, or should it be a little bit more down the road for them to actually start worrying, Jade?
So my concern for the Bucks right now is Giannis's performance in losses compared to wins. So this is from StatMuse. In losses, he's averaging 32.8 points. He's shooting 67% from the field and 71% from the free throw line, which for Giannis is quite high.
Oh my God, dangerous.
But that's in losses. In wins, he's only scoring 25.8 points a game. He's only shooting 51% from the field and 58% from the free throw line. So I saw that in Stat News and I retweeted and I said, well, there's your problem.
Yeah.
You can't. So whether it's the matter of Giannis is not stepping up in the right games, or the team is being outplayed and nobody else is stepping up in their losses. And we know that Dame hasn't quite found his footing, which makes a lot of sense to me. He's never played with a player of Giannis's caliber in his entire career. He has been used to being the guy his whole career in Portland. That's all he's ever done. So I'm not super worried about them yet. The one thing I will add is they are also with a new head coach and a first-time head coach.
Yeah.
So who's their coach again?
Adrian Griffin.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm a little bit concerned that the Bucks front office has made the mistake of changing too much all at the same time with bringing in that new superstar and somebody of Dame's caliber, somebody who's demands the kind of touches that Dame demands, and a new head coach and a first-time NBA head coach. I'm concerned that those three things are too much uncertainty, too many new things all at the same time. I think because Giannis and Dame both have such great basketball IQs, I think there's a good chance they do figure it out. The question is, do they figure it out in time for them to be rolling in the playoffs? If they can be rolling when it gets to playoff time, whatever their record ends up being, as long as they make that top 6, if they have figured it out by then, the Bucks are still going to be a problem. But it's a matter of, are they going to get it figured out?
Because it also comes down to what's the rest of the team doing? Yeah. Chris Middleton. Right. What do you Brooke Lopez?
Yeah.
I'd have to look.
Bobby Portis has had some good games, but those other
I was about to say, I know Bobby has had he has continued his play from last season. Also from at least it was limited time, but the time he had with Team USA. Every player that we've talked about that has been doing really well, they've like a common theme. They played during the summer. Like they all did. Like every player that has made like jumps this year with stuff.
Yes. Previous year too.
They would play it. I think that it kind of all started with, like we mentioned, Lauri Markkanen. Like after we saw him do that, and then he comes back, and you're like, oh,
that's how you use him.
This is what the Chicago Bears, Chicago Bulls were thinking about when they traded Jimmy for him.
Right.
Okay, I'm just going to jump in for a second, Taylor, because there's news about your matchup tonight. Steph Curry is not playing. Do you still want to call him up?
Nope, we got to win. No one else on that team right now is doing much.
No, is doing anything.
Clay is not doing his best. He seemed a little bit ego-driven now.
Huh.
I mean, I think you go that many years not getting the respect you deserve, it's bound to happen eventually.
But he's also not doing too hot. So, like, is it me or is he riding too much on ego and his history now instead of what he's doing on the court?
I'm not worried about Clay. Clay will once Clay locks in, he's in. Like it only takes one game for Clay to get back on track, and that's it for the rest of the season.
All right, I'm just curious because I see more of him going like this than him actually going like this. Just saying.
Do you think that Clay? It's time for a new team for Clay, though.
I think this dynasty's done.
I think so too. And
dynasties are done for the time being in the NBA.
True.
I don't see that happening because like we're gonna talk about the rest of the NBA. We're gonna talk about the tournaments, but like we've already got 2 teams in the East playing really well that nobody saw coming in the Pacers and the Rockets. Right, you've already got the Mavs off to a hot start that nobody suggested. Like the NBA landscape has changed, and I think we're going to continue to have every year teams that nobody saw coming, which makes it an incredible time to be an NBA fan.
I think they've now found the balance between still like being too buddy and hating each other completely on the court. I think they've now formed the connection of, I don't want to play with you, but we're still friends.
Yes.
Because maybe at one point, even maybe if it was like in high school, we were on a team together and we were like this.
But they're so competitive also, they still want to beat each other.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like now, once we get into this 94 feet hardwood, I hope I cross you over. I hope you fall down when I pull up on a jump shot. I hope I block the living daylights out of you. Because then you can hang it over their head. It's like how a pickup ball game goes. So it should go at least, but whatever. Other teams that were the other East team I thought we should probably get into just because just the news today with Lavine and Chicago. Where are they at right now? Because also Lonzo's done potentially his entire career. Crossing fingers that's not happened. DeMar DeRozan's not getting any younger. Lavine is
wasting his prime in Chicago.
Wasting.
They just signed Vucevic to a big contract to where he is in his point. Like the size of the contract maybe works for a season that he's worth that contract, but by the time that contract's done, that's a lot of money for him.
Yeah. The Bulls seem to be another one of those teams that don't super know what they're doing, because if you're willing to part with Lavine, to me that says it's time to rebuild. But how are you going to rebuild with Vucevic on that, what's it, 3 or 4 years on that huge contract? Like that hamstrings your ability to properly rebuild. So once again, the Bulls are sitting in like development limbo. And like, then, what are you doing? Or pick a direction, because it just seems like they're always not quite sure which way they're going, and they're trying to keep their foot on both sides of the fence all the time.
I also just don't think that they have the coaching for a rebuild. That's literally why, OKC ended up getting rid of Billy Donovan too, is because he doesn't really have that experience in the same way. So I don't really understand what's going on in Chicago.
Because also, then how quickly then do you get rid of DeMar DeRozan?
Right. I don't know.
If you're if you're gonna let go of Lavine, I think you let DeMar move on too.
That's what I.
But again, you're still stuck with Vuce as like your franchise guy for the next 40 years. So it's like they've got it feels like they backed themselves a bit into a corner.
It's weird, and it almost makes me feel like it could be a PR stunt, because because of how weird it is that they would be like, yeah, we might trade Lavine. Why? That doesn't even make sense.
The reports are saying that both sides are open to it, so that strikes me as a little bit odd too. Like, when does that ever happen outside of a player requesting a trade, which he hasn't done publicly? There's been no reports that he's done that. So like, where is this story coming from? It's coming from Shams and Woj, so like I trust it, but like
I do too.
It doesn't make, even though I believe that that's what's happening, it doesn't make sense.
I wonder if it's like Lavine is still like, I will put my heart to the team, but at the same time, if you guys are going to trade me, awesome.
You're not
going to get, and I could be completely wrong, but he could be like, you're not going to get a Harden from me.
Right. No.
You know I'm still going to be here.
I think the hard thing about trading Lavine from the Bulls right now is that I believe you move Lavine to a different team and you realize, oh shit, that's what Zach Lavine can do. And I think the Bulls know that on one hand. So like, I think that's why they tried to hold on to him. And I'm really curious to see what happens when he does move on, because I see him as one of those kind of players that gets into a new situation and makes a jump.
Just then, like, last question then about who would be the best team that could realistically go for Lavine? Like, Lakers have had their hand in the cookie jar.
Man, the Lakers need to like just hold on to a roster for a hot minute and figure out what you're doing. Like,
because even the slightest of I twisted an ankle. Where's the next $100 million cap player?
Like, really?
I mean, granted, like the other night, Anthony Davis, I think, tweaked something, but then there was a report later, like the next day, because they had another game, and it was questionable. Which, when it's questionable, that means it's literally like, I don't think I can. Probable is like, I'm a little nervous, but
probably
I
will. Yes,
right.
Yeah.
Questionable is I don't think I'm gonna.
No idea.
I think he ended up actually playing, so you did it.
Hats
but at
off.
the same time, like, it had to take until, for Lakers fans, essentially game time to see if he was gonna play, and that's when a player like Lavine would be something the Lakers would want, but Lakers would have to give away a lot of depth to get.
They can't, and they already can't. The Lakers cannot afford to lose any more depth.
Yes.
Can we just, like, they cannot afford that right now.
No, they don't have it.
They would want to keep Austin Reeves, and I don't think Austin Reeves would be available for that trade.
Well, and Austin Reeves hasn't started the season particularly well.
No.
Like, he is not one of those players that has continued his momentum from last season into this season. So I'm sure the Lakers are going to be in the conversation. I don't have any.
They always same with
they
the
always
Knicks.
Are.
Same with the Knicks. I could see him on Miami.
The Knicks is interesting. I don't know who are they going to give up in Miami to get him.
Tyler. Younger can go towards Chicago. They can start fresh.
I hate that for Tyler Hero, though.
Yeah.
What this is a business, baby. Who cares?
I get it. I get it.
I'm Danny Ainge in it. I don't give a flying about your personal self.
Sorry, I just found something that I'm gonna have to show you guys.
Yeah.
So,
well, if you're all ready to show us, I think it's time for some Twitter time, seeing some laughs and everything.
Oh my gosh. So, since a certain trillionaire, billionaire, whatever he is, has taken over Twitter, I don't see quite as much as I used to. So somehow I missed this, and I'm glad I found it literally right this second. So I'm going to show you guys something that I realized the Hawks did just now, despite it coming out November 9th. So I guess they didn't.
I saw this. I saw this.
Only Hawks fans know where the real action is. Only Hawks fans know what they really want to see. And only Hawks fans know just where to get it. The all-new NBA in-season tournament. Join in and wake up your wild side. Hot 5-on-5 action.
I'm just like,
they should have made it like at one point, like when they had like that yellow string or rope, they should have had like just like a pair of handcuffs right next to
it. I mean,
like,
that's pretty
how
hilarious.
Did this get approved?
That's pretty. There's nothing in it.
I know, but it's just like so
there's going to be a kid that's going to accidentally
mess definition,
up typing it in.
It's the definition of risque.
That's the best part. It was like, admin, I'm at work, and then there's like this meme.
Man, your kids have seen worse than that on their iPads and
of course they have. I just think so that old news. I'm just saying it. Sorry that I missed it. But we do have some other stuff for the week. So where is it? From Hunter Harjo, right here. Come on, Chicago Bulls. We're past that season now. So with their announcement basically saying if they were going to trade Lavine, they're basically just a Spirit Halloween store.
Perfect. Yikes. I can't believe we were right on topic. It's like we planned that.
Right? Okay, this one too. So I don't know if you guys know, it was either yesterday or the day before was Russell Westbrook's 35th birthday. And so we have this video from Legion Hoops. James Harden is seen stocking up at Russell Westbrook's birthday party in LA last night following the Clippers' 5th straight loss. But
so on here you can learn. Let's see how much you can earn. Why me go big like the worm? And I ain't smoking no shirt.
It's not just Harden. They Tucker right now.
We can merge.
So it's hard. Like, I will defend Harden on this point. It is not a flattering look because that man is very sweaty, and you know it's not from working out. I don't want to know why he's that wet.
Also, let's
eat 4 burgers.
Right, I was going to say, let's talk about the guy that has more than one time showed up out of shape to training camp.
Right.
What if he's getting burgers for the friends?
Do you really believe that?
I mean, I can't eat 4 burgers, and I'm a large dude. I'm a larger fella. I got some more cushion for pushing.
I only eat once a day, which means I eat one larger meal, and I can't eat 4 burgers at once. Like that's without eating all day.
I got 3 McChickens on lock, but that's pretty much it.
I could do that. I mean, I used to eat 2 Crunchwrap Supremes. Like,
I could do 2.
But I try not to eat Taco Bell anymore.
Can't do that.
Unless Taco Bell wants to like sponsor us, and then I will eat them all the time.
Baja Blast for life.
Yeah. From Grant Afsep, Luka Doncic attempting to use the Jumbotron for a trick shot at Dallas Mavericks shoot around. So make sure.
And it would be either him or
Steph.
It would be the only 2 players. Also, he's the only one that would think about throwing up a shot like that.
Right?
Like, who would think about trick shot? I'm going to hit it on the Jumbotron.
So my question for that is, would it be legal?
Ooh.
Because
Taylor and I just did the exact same thing.
But, like, there's no height out of bounds.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm thinking a couple years, like maybe like a decade ago, like, and this isn't the NBA, but the similar situation, Dallas Cowboys arena, stadium, they had a massive Jumbotron to a point where, depending on the kicker or the punter, it was hitting the Jumbotron.
Right.
So then there was a huge issue that season with it, that to a point where they're like, we just have to redo the kick. So, like, but you can't redo the shot. So they didn't call it like out of bounds, but it was just kind of like we didn't think this would happen.
Maybe like a jump ball.
I think that's essentially what they did was just, it's a jump ball.
Yeah.
Just think if he made the shot though, hit the ceiling, jump ball, boom. Oh, that would be a killer.
That would be like, yeah, that would be such a letdown.
And then to close out my segment this week, also, you guys should start tweeting, not y'all, but like anyone else should start tweeting funny Twitter stuff, like NBA Twitter stuff, because it was weak this week. Just saying. But had to bring this back since we never discussed it. Michael Malone just became the highest paid head coach. So from Tony Calvin, Mike Malone was the legend of the Nuggets parade. And he had on this shirt that said, "Put this in your pipe and smoke it," which was a callback to after the Lakers won the first game. And I believe it was the finals. He basically was like, oh, so that's the narrative now, is that the Lakers are going to find a way to beat us. Well, we're just going to put that in our pipe and smoke it. And so I love that. Like, he was the rowdiest at the parade. Like, he was wasted. He's smoking a cigar.
J.R. Smith shirtless.
Good for him. Good for him. And you know what I
mention like that?
You know what I always find interesting about us smaller market teams is it is always the same narrative if we get to the finals against a big market team. It was the same when the Raptors were there in 19. Nothing was about how the Raptors played. It was all about how, well, here's how the Sixers are going to beat them. Here's how the Bucks are going to beat them. Here's how the Warriors are going to beat them. There's never any balance between the small market teams and the bigger market teams, which I think is going to have to begin to change too as we continue to see the NBA smaller market teams step up, which has been happening for 3 seasons in a row now. We've had smaller market teams stepping up to be harder to beat, more talented. There's more talented in the league right now, I think, than there's ever been in my lifetime. There are really good players, more than one, on like every team in the league right now.
Yeah, and if they're going to expand into other smaller market, that narrative has to change, you know.
It has to.
Yeah, it's just it's irritating. I prefer the smaller market teams. And I know you can argue that Brooklyn is not a smaller market team, but it is because we are competing with the Knicks.
I agree.
So
I will say on the picture here, have you guys ever heard of the rap group from the 90s, House of Pain? They did the song Jump Around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like the rapper in it, Everlast, one of the rappers. He looks like current day Everlast. So if you guys,
oh my god, I googled a picture too, and it is like pretty.
Google.
Make sure we tweet. Make sure we tweet those together.
Oh yeah, because no,
I will. I'm keeping this
right away.
up.
Legitimately, right away. I'm like, why do you have a picture of Everlast in front of me? And I was like, unless he's in Celtics gear because they're from Boston, there's no reason why he should be wearing this stuff right now.
That is so good.
That's hilarious.
So confused with it.
He should start rapping, Mike Malone.
He'd just be trash talk. He'd be just putting diss tracks out.
But that's what I want.
He'd be doing.
That's what you come for.
Right.
He'd be the hardest guy on the field.
All right. Well, sadly, I have to take this picture down, but I think we should all get it tattooed on us because
that's okay, because then you can just go look at a picture on Everlast and you'll find it. You'll still be able to see, being like, oh yeah, there we go. That makes sense. All right. Well, last thing I'm going to talk about today is just overall the NBA. This tournament that's going on, this in-season tournament that I'm kind of getting finally. Jade, I guess, is better than everybody and understands it. And Jade is what the word tourney means. I'm going to go with you, Jade, because you got things going. Have you been actually entertained now with this in-season tournament idea?
So I have to say that I have been. Half of it has been passing judgment on the terrible floors still. Some of them last week were better than the week before, but like, yikes. But the bigger thing is, and I'm starting to understand why the NBA wanted to do this because of something JJ Redick said on one of the broadcasts he was on. It's about competition. It's about these guys who you give them an extra thing to compete for and they're going to compete. It doesn't matter if it's inconsequential to the season record or any of those other things. It's dangling another carrot. And because basketball players and athletes in general are so freaking competitive, that's why we're getting such good games out of it. So I'm being turned in favor of the in-season tournament. I'm going to see how the games are tonight because it is another tournament night tonight. It is a big roster of games. All of the games tonight are tournament games. So it should be a fun evening of basketball tonight for sure. But yeah, it's especially tonight too. You've got Chet Holmgren and Wemby are matching up tonight.
Yes.
I'm very excited to watch that game.
I feel bad for Chet. And this isn't even me being a hometown boy with him because he literally grew up like 5 cities away from me. If he would have played last year, he would have been Rookie of the Year. He would have been Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Like Paolo, he did great, but it was kind of meh. Like Chet Holmgren is like going to be like Defensive Player of the Year. The way he goes up, I've never seen, or there's very few players that I see go up straight like that for a block and get the block just because they keep their hands up. Wemby's the exact same way.
Wemby, I was going to say the exact same. He's blocking 3 points. Wemby's blocking 3-point shots like regularly. This isn't like a once in a while thing.
Well, and so speaking of the blocks, so I was looking this online because when I saw Rudy's up first for Defensive Player of the Year, I was like, okay, who's getting the most blocks? Wemby's 1, and then Chet's 2, or his third one with it, and he's just almost getting a shade under 2.5 per game. Then I was looking at blocks and past histories where there's players that are getting like 4 blocks a game. And then it made me think, well, there's so much more 3-point shooting. So I feel like blocks per game, is that even a useful idea? Because there's not as many people going to the rim to shoot the hoops. In like, say, the 90s, everything is right by the hoop.
Yeah.
In the 80s, everything's right by the hoop. So like, yeah, you're going to get a lot of blocks.
See, I don't think the NBA tracks enough defensive stats. I would like to see them track charges taken and deflections.
And see, that's when
along with blocks and steals, because then you get a clearer picture of how good a defensive player is. Blocks and steals by itself isn't enough. It's not enough. We need more defensive stats so that we can get a better picture of who's really doing all the work. Deflections are freaking important. I don't understand why we don't track them. They're really important.
I was just about to say, like, those ones are also pretty easy to track too.
Right.
And just because, like, say, like with MVP, well, like, you points, rebounds, assists, like, granted, you also throw the defense, but there's so much more offensive things that they can take in consideration with.
Right.
With defense, that's why usually it's like always the big man who wins the defensive player of the year. So it was just a thought, because then I was looking at, like, we were looking Wemby and Chet going tonight. Those are 2 players that will be MVP and defensive player of the year nominees for the next decade. As long as they stay healthy. But Shay, I've been just chatting up. How have you liked the in-season tournament so far?
Oh, I haven't really paid attention to it.
Paid attention to it?
Well, I know that the Nets started tonight, which again, it's against Orlando at home. I don't think our court's that bad, but also our colors are literally gray, white, and black, so I feel like it's really hard to mess that up. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm okay with it. Like, I just feel like it just complicates things in my brain, but like, I guess I'm the only one now. Like, everyone else has figured it out, so I'm okay being complicated. That's fine.
And that's that. Well, I will say I was wrong about the tournament idea for the most part. I still see it primarily because of also, like, with the jerseys and the court, it is still a cash grab. But at the same time, JJ was right. Players are always right when it comes to talking about the players.
Yep.
Just like JJ said the exact same thing for the All-Star game. So when we come closer to that time period, I will be bringing back to, if listeners want to kind of know where I'm coming from, listen to Old Man in the 3, JJ Redick's podcast. He has a sit down with Silver. Listen to that. You'll get a little bit of a taste of what I haven't planned for that one, but check that for future points. But all right, so today we got really into it. West, we're talking about teams that are doing real great with Houston, if they're going to stay the same. Denver, how are they going to react with having their star player out? Clippers, are they ever going to get that good with Harden with it? And then opposite side of the Harden stuff, Sixers, they're doing great. Bucks still got to figure their things out. And Chicago, who knows?
Who knows?
Sadly, they're the new purgatory team, I feel like, in the NBA.
Yeah.
I honestly think that. And I can say that because the Wolves were a purgatory team for a very long time too. We're bad or purgatory, regardless. Okay, so on that note, I think now it's time for me to fast break question of the week. Where a fast break is where I have 3 questions that Shane and Jade have zero knowledge of, and I am here to try to stump them. And I know for sure there's one that they won't guess.
Thanks.
Won't guess. Okay, but this one. All right, so this is for players that have played over 21 years. Which of the players has averaged most on year 21? Dirk?
Points?
Yes, points. Dirk, Vince Carter, Moses Malone, or D. Kevin Garnett?
Ooh.
Because I bring this up because I'm seeing LeBron. He's getting 24 a game in year 21.
Yeah.
So I wanted to put his name. I was like, I can't put his name in there because that's dumb.
It's too soon. It's too soon.
It's obvious. Obviously, it's
I'm gonna go with my rule of when you include Kevin Garnett, he's usually the answer. So I'm gonna go with Garnett.
Shay.
I'm gonna go with Dirk.
Vince Carter.
No.
Garnett was actually like of those four, I think was the least.
Really?
I think he was like 3 point something a game.
Well, now I got to reconsider my strategy.
Exactly. My third question, or my second question: who played for more teams, Shaq or Vince Carter? Shay?
Isn't it Vince Carter?
I'm definitely saying Vince.
Yeah.
Correct. Vince 8, Shaq 6.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
Although I don't know that I knew that Shaq played for 6 teams. I think I would have said 4 or 5.
Shaq,
I think I said in my
you
head
can
counted
do
4.
a color of the rainbow with Shaq jerseys. I just got to write notes that you guys both wanted. Okay, and now here is the one that I told you guys beforehand that I was really excited for. So, in 1987, there was a tournament called in the Mecca Arena called the McDonald's Open, and it was between Tracer Milano, which was a Italian club team, and the big deal of it was the USSR.
Ooh.
Which team, and this was the first time USSR had played against United States in the States. Which team played against that USSR 1987 team?
So it's an NBA team.
It was, yes, it was a tournament between USSR,
1987
this Italian team or Italian club team and one NBA team. So, and I will say the NBA team won it all. But was it A, the Lakers, B, Boston, C, Bucks, or D, Rockets? And I will say all 4 of these teams were the top teams.
They were good in 1987.
Yes, these were top teams in 1987.
I was going to say the Rockets.
I'm gonna say Boston.
It is the Bucks. The Mecca Arena is in Milwaukee.
Okay.
Wisconsin. It was on October 25th, 1987. Team or Milwaukee Bucks, Team USA beat this because this was still Soviet Union. They beat them 127-100, and this is. Cold War is still kind of hovering around. So, so many things that were on this alone, not just for basketball, but just for
the world in general.
At times. Okay, I was just about to check. Was it shown on TV? And it says, okay, no, it doesn't look like it was ever recorded. Or it wasn't televised. I might be missing it. But yeah, so the 1987 McDonald's Open, not to be confused with the McDonald's high school games, obviously. But yeah, so I'm very proud of that last one. Very proud on that last one. That is, even for me, I'm like, that is extremely obscure. Know that was a situation that happened.
Well done. Well done.
But also surprisingly at the time, I think there was 2 or 3 players from the Soviet Union that were at least 2 players that had been drafted. One had been playing, and one was Sabonis's dad, Arvydas.
Okay, Arvydas Sabonis.
He didn't play.
Right.
He didn't play though because he was with an injury. Jokic takes his entire playing style, especially passing and rebounding style, off of Sabonis.
Makes sense.
He is the original passing big man, I think, especially at least when it comes to international. But okay, anywho, off of that history lesson of the day for basketball, I think we've done a solid job with it. I think it's today, though. It is time to wrap it up. We've been doing this for a good time. I got to take a nap before I watch the Wolves tonight.
Right.
So,
I'm going to try to get on a walk before it's dark here.
Right? It's dark at like 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yep. It's been a lovely sunset now for us. So, see you guys